He has worked as a comedian, TV judge, author, and headliner over the years. People are always surprised. He can be wild and boisterous at times, sometimes kind and considerate. He has made a profession out of making people laugh and attempting new things, regardless of whether they like him or not. Beneath all the characters and celebrity, there is a tale of perseverance and use comedy to build relationships. David's childhood, career in writing and television. David Williams wasn't always a TV personality or a best-selling author. He was born in 1971 as a cheeky Banstead, Surrey boy, to a mother who worked as a lab technician and a father who was an engineer. Even as a child, he had a big personality. He was gregarious, funny, and always willing to perform. When he first appeared on stage in school plays, he realized right away that he loved making people laugh. He carried that spark with him into college, where he majored in acting and began laying the groundwork for his future in show business. During his undergraduate studies at Bristol University, where he met potential collaborators and honed his humorous skills, David joined the National Youth Theatre. In order to prevent confusion with another artist, David Williams, he legally changed his name to Williams after graduating from college. And something monumental began with that minor adjustment. He first became well-liked by the public when he partnered with fellow comedian Matt Lucas. They collaborated to produce the comedy series Little Britain, which is full of oddball characters and hilarious jokes. Viewers were captivated by Williams' portrayal of every role, from a man who insisted he was a lady to a desperate political assistant. The program won prizes and aired on television networks all over the world, becoming a cultural phenomenon. It launched Williams into the national spotlight and was ludicrous, strange, and completely unforgettable. He wasn't only a comic, though. Williams not only hosted eccentric programs and played dramatic parts, but he also served as a judge on Britain's Got Talent, where his outrageous antics and playful banter attracted more viewers. He demonstrated his ability to be simultaneously provocative and endearingly odd. Then the unexpected turn of events occurred. Williams began penning novels for young readers. An anguished tale of acceptance and identity, his debut novel, The Boy in the Dress, was a huge hit with readers. He then followed up with Ratburger, Gangster Granny, and Mr. Stink. Each combined some genuine passion with a little of ridiculous humor. Children adored his stories because they were not only humorous but also had heart and emotion. His books rocketed off the shelves, and critics likened him to Roald Dahl, who is, let's face it, rather famous. Over time, Williams built a literary empire. Over 50 million copies of his novels have been sold, and they have been translated into many different languages. Many of his stories have been adapted for television, and he has persisted in penning fresh tales that blend warmth, comedy, and adventure. David Williams has mastered the art of storytelling by being shamelessly himself, whether he is making people laugh on television or evoking strong feelings in print. David's private life. David Williams' life has been more than just jokes and laughs on TV. He has also had some extremely difficult times. He claims that the loss of his father, Peter, to severe liver cancer in 2007 changed him. Although it made him more resilient, it also left a scar that altered his perspective on life. A few years later, in 2009, David was in the news because he was seeing 18-year-old model Lauren Budd. Considering that he allegedly got in touch with her via her modeling agency, the age gap was questionable. He soon dated Dutch supermodel Lara Stone. After that brief affair ended, things moved quickly. They got married in January 2010, and then soon after at London's Claridge's. They lived in Noel Gallagher's old home in Bells Park, after having their son Alfred in 2013. But by 2015, everything fell apart. Following the declaration of a trial split due to emotional distance, David filed for divorce on the basis of unreasonable behavior. The marriage was dissolved in 6 weeks, after a speedy process that saw the issuance of the decree the next day. Regarding his sexual orientation, David has never felt the need to categorize himself. He hinted at being pansexual inside Little Britain, but he did not categorize himself. "You fall in love with someone's soul, heart, and brain," he said to Radio Times in 2013. Then, in 2024, he stated on the Uncomfortable Conversations podcast that he would have likely announced, "I'm non-binary," if he had grown up in the modern era. He also mentioned that throughout his time in college, he wore skirts, frequented homosexual bars, and felt at ease there. David has also been quite open about his personal struggles with mental health. He suffers from bipolar disorder and has battled depression for many years. Bear characterized depression as an ongoing struggle during his 2019 Bear Grylls mission. Not even his English Channel swim in 2006 was a publicity stunt. It was his way of regaining authority and establishing his own worth. Unlike many celebrities, Williams has been open about identity, bereavement, and mental health. This transparency has helped to dispel prejudices and demonstrates that his life is much more than just humor. David's wealth. Okay, so this is a summary of David Williams's 2025 bank account. To be honest, the numbers are everywhere. While some claim he is worth a paltry $25 million, others are speculating about values as high as $275 million. Yes, there is a ridiculously large disparity. The low ball is where celebs' money goes, depending on who you ask. People with money, on the other hand, reported that he earned $96 million in a single year, making him one of the top-paid comedians in the world. Where is the source of all this money? Well, from his diverse profession, which includes endorsements, live performances, publishing, and television. David is essentially children's book Willy Wonka. It's not exactly hurting for money there, as more than 50 million copies have been sold in more than 50 languages. He has a huge deal with HarperCollins, not to mention the merchandise and sporadic modifications. At this point, he's essentially a money-making machine. Britain's Got Talent comes next. Williams likely earned more money per season than most individuals do in their lifetimes, while serving on that judging panel for 10 years. He has money coming in from all sides when you include the odd stage gig, a few brand deals, and several live tours. In addition to a Range Rover, BMW, and likely a closet full of pricey shoes, he is thought to own a number of properties, including a house in Bells Park, North London, that was once owned by musician Noel Gallagher. Williams continues to make a good salary in British entertainment, despite sporadic setbacks in his public image. His appeal across a variety of media outlets, and his capacity to transition from sketch comedian to best-selling novelist and charitable public personality, are also factors in his financial success. Leaked sexually graphic and disparaging statements. David Wally, who made a name for himself as a comedian and children's book author, unexpectedly finds himself in the midst of a tabloid storm back in November 2022. At the London Palladium, audition transcripts for Britain's Got Talent were leaked. Here's the twist, though. It had nothing to do with his typical stage antics. Not at all. He was caught on camera running his mouth in a way that was both crass and honest, which makes you see. In essence, he called an older contender a cot, which is the exact type of conversation that a wayward microphone would pick up. Things worsen. Regarding a female contestant, he said some quite offensive things. You know, very sophisticated. She thinks you want to, her, but you don't. I had a bit of a boner. It seems that the production team ended up transcribing everything, even though it was all intended to remain behind the scenes as studio banter in between takes. Perhaps secrets aren't always kept secret, particularly when one is famous. There was anarchy everywhere after the disclosures were reported to the media. Williams has apologized for the remarks, stating that these were private discussions that were never intended to be public. He claimed he didn't mean any harm and attempted to dismiss them as jokes. It made no difference. The response was swift and vicious. Since judges have all the power and participants are essentially at their mercy, people weren't buying the just joking justification. Regardless of your point of view, the entire experience felt really repulsive. Then the wider conversation starts. How do talent show competitors actually get treated? What separates overt harassment from edgy humor? Williams, who had been a judge for almost a decade, resigned later that year. Everyone knew why he had departed, even though he wasn't publicly fired. It was not a mystery at all. Let's move on. In 2023, Williams lashes out at Fremantle Media, the show's makers, claiming that they ruined his career and handled his personal information in a wholly inappropriate manner. He said that the leak broke his heart and broke his finances. He lost everything, including book agreements and TV appearances. This was a severe wake-up call for a guy who's always walked the tightrope between being cheeky and charming. In addition to damaging Williams' reputation, the entire situation forced everyone to reconsider what types of jokes are tolerated in modern entertainment. In the past, Williams always managed to get out of difficult situations. However, the harm was more extensive this time. Not only for him, but also for the entire dysfunctional culture that first tolerated this behavior. Get out of Fallout and BGT. Following the release of transcripts showing him making sexually explicit and disparaging comments about candidates during off-camera moments. In 2020, Williams resigned from his position as a judge after 10 years. According to Metro and British newspapers, Following the scandal, a £1 million offer for Williams to return for the 2023 season was rescinded. His departure marked a change in the show's lineup and tone, as Bruno Tonioli was able to join the panel. Williams, however, didn't simply leave. He filed a lawsuit. He accused Fremantle Media, the production firm behind BGT, of violating UK data protection regulations and exploiting private information in a high court case filed under his legal name, David Edward Williams. He said he suffered financial loss, including the termination of several media and publishing agreements, mental distress, and damage to his reputation as a result of the leak. Due to its high profile and the broader issues it raised about privacy and accountability in the entertainment industry, the case attracted a lot of attention. Initially, Williams sought £10 million in damages, arguing that the leaked statements, which were transcribed by staff members and recorded by studio microphones, should not have been released. In November 2023, the matter was resolved out of court for £5 million. Fremantle formally apologized and promised to investigate its own backstage recording management protocols. Williams' career took a significant turn after he left BGT. Once a mainstay of Saturday night TV, he now served as a warning about the consequences of casual comments in a time of increased scrutiny. It wasn't only a professional fallout, it was extremely public, legal, and personal. Impact on mental health. David Williams' tenure as a judge was not the only thing that ended. Due to the outrage over the leaked Britain's Got Talent transcript, it caused a mental health crisis that was becoming more and more personal. Williams claimed in court documents related to his complaint against Fremantle Media that he had experienced severe depression, insomnia, and suicidal thoughts. Williams was being administered more medication than ever before in his care, according to a psychiatric study presented before the High Court, which also assessed the impact as significant and extremely concerning. Public uproar wasn't the only thing that caused emotional harm. This was a betrayal issue. Williams accused Fremantle of surreptitiously recording and storing confidential conversations that he believed were off-limits. They were personal reflections on his father's death, addiction, and his marriage's breakdown. He had imagined that these exchanges were confidential and only occurred in between scenes of filming. Rather, they were recorded, preserved, and eventually made public. Williams recalled how the leak stripped him of his confidence and artistic self-respect, leaving him feeling ashamed and vulnerable. He said his sense of humor was stolen by the experience. The worst thing that might happen to someone whose livelihood is based on performance and comedy. Professional repercussions followed the psychological damage. Book contracts were terminated, TV appearances were canceled, and his income was drastically reduced. Williams asserted that despite the lawsuit's successful $5 million settlement, the emotional suffering persisted long after the court case ended. The controversy served as a sobering reminder of the cost of public humiliation to people and the vulnerability of mental health when exposed to the spotlight. Williams' reputation wasn't the only thing harmed. It had a profoundly personal impact on his career, his health, and his confidence in the field he helped create. Agreement with the production firm. Following an extremely public legal battle that was triggered by the release of off-camera comments made during 2020 auditions, David Williams and Fremantle, the production firm behind Britain's Got Talent, negotiated a formal settlement in November 2023. Because 10 years as a judge, Williams departed the program because the public was upset by sexually suggestive and offensive remarks in the leaked transcripts that were made public in 2022. Under his own identity, David Edward Williams, Williams filed a lawsuit against Fremantle for violating UK data protection laws and misusing personal data. According to him, his microphone had been inadvertently left on during breaks, recording private talks that were never meant for public consumption. He asserted that the recordings had caused him great mental suffering and reputational harm, including the termination of publishing and media agreements. Although the exact amount was not revealed, reports put it in the millions. Fremantle committed to reevaluate its own internal procedures for backstage recordings and data management after acknowledging the distress and trouble the breach caused to its employees. According to The Sun, Fremantle thanked Williams for his contributions to the show, and the settlement signaled the end of a challenging period in his career. Despite the fact that the controversy had already altered his public image, the settlement enabled both sides to move on from the matter, with Williams receiving official recognition of the harm he had caused, and Fremantle adopting changes to try to prevent similar instances in the future. More criticism on the sketch of Hide the Sausage. David Williams was in the spotlight once more for criticism of an old sketch from A Little Britain, live tour that came to light. In addition to the issue surrounding Britain's Got Talent, the spoof, which was filmed in 2006 but aired in 2007, portrayed Williams as a fictional children's entertainer who had committed sexual offenses. The character played Hyde the Sausage as part of the prank, which other people would later learn was extremely inappropriate and gory. Despite being on a live comedy show that was notorious for its dark humor, the 2020 resurrection of the segment sparked fresh criticism. Both the crowd and critics condemned the material's tone and meaning, saying it went beyond parody to become something else that was unsettling. Many people found it offensive that the character of a fallen performer was presented in any way that was provocative. Little Britain has already been criticized. However, the reappearance of the Conceal the Sausage skit raised awareness of David Williams's earlier work and caused some to view his earlier performances more critically, particularly considering that the Britain's Got Talent transcript leak occurred around the same time as this. The criticism was amplified by the time. Although there was no formal reaction to the sketch being circulated once more, it demonstrated how historical events may resurface and influence public perception. What started off as a simple segment of a live comedy tour quickly turned into a topic of discussion about where comedy should end and how performers are still held responsible for their work years later. More criticism of 2025. In 2025, David Williams faced new criticism after being accused of having poor taste while recording an episode of the BBC Christmas special, Would I Lie to You? Publicly accessible material claims that Williams gave Nazi salutes during the episode's recording, anything that immediately sparked criticism among the public and industry insiders. With its historical connotations and widespread offensiveness, the action sparked debate about whether such behavior is appropriate in a popular entertainment setting. In reaction to the situation, the BBC moved swiftly. The broadcaster eventually decided not to air the clip, thereby removing the piece from its Christmas programming lineup, even though the incident had been recorded as part of the network's holiday programming. The action served as a strong statement of censure of content that may be perceived as praising or trivializing fascist symbols, and showed how seriously the BBC handled the situation. Williams, who had done it for attention in the past because of other scandals, like the leaked script for Britain's Got Talent and the Little Britain rerun sketches, was once again in the spotlight. The growing re-evaluation of his public persona and comedic legacy was influenced by the timing of this new critique. Williams has long been known for pushing the envelope in his performances, but many people felt that this specific event went too far, particularly in light of the historical background of Nazi imagery and its sensitivity. Reactions to the BBC's decision to not air the video were mixed. Some commended the network for its prompt action, while others questioned how such behavior on the set had gone unpunished during production before being fixed. Arguments over editorial control, performers' accountability, and evolving acceptable standards in public television were all reignited by the controversy. Williams, who had previously faced the fallout of court battles and public outrage, saw the incident as just another chapter in his career's upheaval. His complex relationship with mainstream media sources was made worse by this further scandal. It also highlighted the predicament faced by artists, whose past and current work is more vulnerable to criticism, in a time when social consciousness is growing. Williams hasn't made any public remarks about the Would I Lie to You event that have been referenced in the source as of yet. The BBC's decision to withhold the video, however, says a lot about the incident's effects and how it will influence people's opinions going forward. David's other works. David was interested in theater, in addition to being a comedian and author of children's books. He made his stage debut in Harold Pinter's No Man's Land in Dublin in 2008, co-starring with Michael Gaiman. Even Pinter came to see that show in London, which, to be honest, was somewhat of a bargain. Additionally, in 2013, Williams is performing as Bottom in A Midsummer Night's Dream with Sheridan Smith's Titania. Additionally, he unexpectedly showed up at the Otwu Arena in 2014 to attend Monty Python's live performance, jumping right into their blackmail sketch, as though it were his natural home. However, he does more than simply front-of-camera work. Williams has attempted to write a screenplay. He and Edgar Wright were initially slated to co-write the DreamWorks animated film Shadows. However, a studio glitch prevented that from ever being finished. Well, at least he made an effort. Then, in 2018, he made an appearance in a British Airways comedy relief safety film, tinkering with life jackets in a way that is still used on his plane. Thus, be mindful the next time you travel with British Airways. And let's not even talk about his charitable antics. The man is an automaton. He has hosted comedy relief and sport relief shows, interacting with celebrities including Dinah McCall, Gary Lucker, and Miranda Hart. His physical hurdles, however, are the jaw-droppers. In 2006, he raised more than £1 million by swimming the English Channel in 10 hours. He rode the UK in 2010 after suffering numerous injuries, swam the Gibraltar Strait a few years later, and in 2011, he undertook the most insane thing he had ever done. Williams raised over £2 million by swimming 140 meters down the Thames River, but in the process, he completely destroyed himself. Spinal injury and giardiasis necessitated surgery in 2013. On a more serious note, though, the man simply never gives up. Williams is at the top of any list of UK celebrities who go above and above for charitable causes. Worldwide influence and reach. The impact of David Williams goes much beyond British publications and television. He brought his distinctive blend of warm humor and eccentricity to a new audience in 2022 when he joined the Australia's Got Talent judging panel. His popularity on the show demonstrated that his personality and humorous instincts are universal. Williams has also given talks about narrative, creativity, and engaging young readers at international literary festivals, such as those in New Zealand and continental Europe. His seminars frequently attract sizable audiences, particularly from parents and educators. They value his capacity to combine humor with nuanced emotion. His children's book-based TV shows, such as Gangster Granny and Mr. Stink, have shown in several nations. They are frequently modified to accommodate local audiences by using local voice actors and cultural references. These adaptations demonstrate how his books, despite their British settings, have universal themes that appeal to people all around the world. His global commitment is even evident in his social media presence. Global fans engage with his articles, comment in several languages, and share artwork influenced by his characters. Williams frequently replies with thanks and humor, highlighting his approachability and universal appeal. Williams has established a reputation as a storyteller who transcends boundaries and communicates not only through words, but also through common experiences and emotions, whether through television appearances, book adaptations, or festival presentations. The real reason David was imprisoned, in what may have been a disastrous trip, was transformed into a comic masterpiece by David Williams in 2023. He brought the incorrect passport by mistake while traveling to Venice for a peaceful weekend. Williams took up the expired passport, one of his two. Heathrow allowed him to pass without question. However, the border police were not kind to him when he arrived in Italy. They quickly brought him to a detention cell after clocking the expired paperwork. Just the most ruthless bureaucracy, no drama, no yelling. Williams was in that cell for 7 hours. Just a drink of water and a fully charged laptop, no hot food or phone calls. The majority would be pacing the floor, asking to be released, or perspiring profusely. He began to write. Williams did not write at random while incarcerated. Shortly after the incident, he finished writing The Blunders, a children's novel. He became so engrossed in it that he later remarked that he was devastated to be released, since he hadn't completed his assignment. He alone had the ability to transform a passport error into a haven for writers. During a Q&A session with children at the Henley Literary Festival, he told the entire story. His sardonic response, Italian prison cell, when asked where he enjoys writing, clearly brought the house down. In May 2024, Williams also talked about the event on ITV's Lane, when he acknowledged that the officers were yelling at him and described the treatment as quite harsh. He claimed that he found the experience strangely soothing despite the stress, most likely as a result of starting to write. It was self-deprecating, ridiculous, and nevertheless endearing. Classic Williams. Because both fans and the media adored the notion of a best-selling author discovering creative happiness in a holding cell, the story soon made headlines. Most significantly, Williams was not taken into custody. It was a procedural glitch, not a criminal charge. He was freed that same day and proceeded with his journey, most likely with both passports checked again. His eccentric public character gained a new dimension throughout the entire episode. Part inadvertent fugitive, part jet-setter, and always willing to make a joke out of a situation. Thank you for viewing. Give this video a thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and enable notifications if you liked it so you don't miss the next one. Please leave a remark if you have any questions, comments, or anything we missed. We would be delighted to hear from you.